Hey guys, let's have a look at Home from the Ballad Songs and Vignettes playlist. This is a different approach that I take with this particular piece. Very easy to work with an accompaniment arrangement of this piece with your students. And essentially what I've done with this piece, once again, I've borrowed entirely from the original composition. And we'll go into that in some detail. Firstly, let's hop over, have a look at the actual performance of the piece where Destiny's singing the lyrics, and then we'll come back and have a chat about what it is that I'm doing.
Standing here, mountains rise, sunlight touches sky, water runs downstream, fishes jumping, wind is breathing, softly spoken breeze, green and golden trees, standing here, open eyes, nature calls me home.
Okay, let's have a look. Firstly, as you'll see from the piece itself, it's in Foundation Level 6, so for those of you who aren't there, you'll still be able to follow along with what it is that I'm doing because it's really simple. There are both compositional opportunities here as well as an accompaniment opportunity. For those of you who have worked with this piece in Foundation Level 6, let's have a look and see what it is that I'm doing from an accompaniment point of view. Really straightforward. I am 100% just taking the left hand exactly as it is in the notation. Let me just hit this record. So we're starting with the very first line. Standing here, mountains rise, sunlight touches sky. So all I've really got here is this, fifth from my G flat to my D flat. Now, what's going to happen in the next line, you can actually see there are three events. The first one, I'm keeping my hand in this position, but I'm really just playing the B here, or C flat, actually. I'm playing these two notes. And then from here, I'm playing this middle note on the lower note, and then I'm back to where I was. So you can see that I've just got this sort of, offset triangle that I'm working with. So once your hands are here, your students being able to play this configuration is really straightforward. Standing here, mountains rise, sunlight touches sky, water runs downstream, fishes jumping, wind is breathing. I haven't really moved out of this position. All I've done is just sort of fragment the chord, the upper part of it, the lower part of it, and then returning to my original position. So let's have a look at what I'm doing in the right hand. Now, the melody of this piece is built almost entirely on the black notes. There's that pentatonic quality, of course. And the great thing about it, from the point of view of your students doing an accompaniment arrangement, is anything will work if they stick on the black notes. So here's what I mean by that. I'm going to run through the whole piece, left hand from beginning to end, and all I'm going to do is just run up the black notes, and you'll see how everything fits. So starting with the first event, let's have a listen. That all works. The next event. I'm going down to the last two lines. Everything works. It doesn't really matter what you do. It's all going to sound great. So what you need to do then is just have the students learn what's happening in the left hand, and the rest can come together. And there are a few options with regards to that. I'll show you what I'm doing. But before I do that, let's look at the second half of the piece. I'll take it from the top again. So we started here with our fifth interval, and even with your students, from a point of view of positioning and identification, you can just have them look at, well, it's the last black note on the 3 group, or the bottom black note, it's the bottom black note on the 2 group. There's the easy home position, so to speak. So from here to here, we fragment that interval. We play the upper component, the lower component, and then back to the interval of a fifth. Now what's going to happen, I'm going to move to these notes here. I'm playing my E flat and my C flat. I'm just moving my top note down to the B flat. And now I'm moving my bottom note down. Top comes up, and then both fingers come in. Really, there's only 3 different positions, or 3 different hand positions that are needed. You can do it from the point of view of shape, but it's just as easy to show the movement. Once you've got that first section, very simple. We're going to move down, and in this instance, we're going from black to white. The top comes down, the bottom goes down, the top comes up, and then both fingers come in. Now, I'm rushing through that a little bit. You'll just take it a piece at a time. But I've never, ever found it difficult for students to be able to get the left hand just by showing them how to maneuver their way around this. And this is also one of those really good pieces where it's a great exercise for those of your students who are already in the reading process. Working with a piece of music in 6 flats is awesome. This is also one of those great pieces to have the students go away and figure it out for themselves without having heard the piece beforehand. I always enjoyed saying to students, once they're into the reading process, go home, I'm not going to play it for you, figure it out, come back and present learning strategies to me. And that type of thing is one of the most powerful activities that we can do to develop generative learning, not giving the students any clue. One of the reasons why, when we get into the more advanced levels, why we have simpler pieces is because when you're asking students now to be responsible for developing the learning strategies for themselves, you need to do that at a fairly simple level, because generative requirement is much more demanding than the receptive requirement. So when you're training students in how to be generative, it's really important to make sure that you're doing this fairly simply until they get an understanding and begin to develop that generative muscle. Okay, so when it comes down to the actual accompaniment component of this, it's really straightforward. If you have a look at what I'm doing, essentially, and I'm just going to do this now, I made up that accompaniment on the spot in that recording. And listening back to it, it was okay. It wasn't great. And probably having listened back to it, if I were to do it again, I'd make some different choices. But essentially what I'm doing is I'm just breaking up my left hand, one and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3, 4. I'm not counting it all. I'm just showing you. It's just really bad. Ba 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 ba. Now, that's one of those things that you could just replicate that through the entirety of the piece. The great thing about it is that almost every black note will almost work almost all of the time. You might find that a couple of times you'll play one of the black notes and there might be a little bit of tension melodically with what you're doing when you hit one of the random black notes. And I can see that happened for me a couple of times in that recording, but it's no big deal. The other thing about it too is that you could be far more open-ended with your students with regards to what it is that they do. In this instance, I'm getting that ba 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 ba. When I go to that water runs downstream, da 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 da, so on and so forth. there's no need for me to teach you specifically what it is that I'm doing, because it's one of those things that it's better to just figure it out. And not only that, you don't even need to have that da, 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 da. You could empty it out even more, like da, 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 da. Da 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 da. So really, I'm just doing that sort of half time. It's all going to work adequately. And that's the great thing about it. So when you're working with this as an accompaniment, there's a real opportunity for your students to explore generating what they rhythmically do, just using the left hand that you've presented them with, as well as exploring what's happening with the black keys in the right hand and what can they do rhythmically. Bear in mind, some of the opportunities for more movement occurs between the breath. Standing here, mountains rise, sunlight touches sky, da, 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 water runs downstream, fishes jumping, wind is breathing, softly spoken breeze, da, 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 da. Working to a more professional sounding or more advanced sounding accompaniment will be conscious of having less movement while the melody is being sung, and then more movement in between, in the breaths, in the pauses. Yeah. That's all we really need to say about home. See you guys.